Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7plus. And with 7news.com.au, you'll know the news now. Live from Brisbane, 7 News with Sharyn Ghidella.
Good morning and welcome to our special coverage of Cyclone Jasper as it makes its way towards the Queensland coast. Now, right now, this is the latest information we have on how the cyclone is tracking. It's currently a Category 1 system situated 135 kilometres north-northeast of Cairns. It's bringing damaging wind gusts of up to 110 kilometres per hour to areas along the coast, with the potential for destructive wind gusts to develop later today. Now, Jasper is expected to make landfall late this afternoon or evening between Hopevale and Cairns, and that is as a Category 2 system. The Weather Bureau is warning up to half a metre of rain could be dumped on the region in the next 24 hours, with fears of major life-threatening flooding. A massive storm surge is also predicted, with fears properties in low-lying areas will be inundated. Now, thousands of people living in the red zone were urged to evacuate in recent days. As you can imagine, this system is likely to have a major impact on North Queensland and its residents, and we have a team of reporters across the region to bring you the latest developments. Well, let's go first to Sally Guyot in Port Douglas. And Sally, it is a worrying time for locals. What's the situation there right now?
Yeah, good morning, Sharyn. You're absolutely right. It is a bit of a concern for locals and mainly the holidaymakers who aren't used to experiencing something like these cyclonic conditions that Jasper is bearing down on the coastline. I'm just going to get you to have a quick look. This is 4 Mile Beach at the moment. The storm surge has really come all the way up. The tide has come in. High tide was about 9:30 this morning, so it is starting to slowly go out now, with low tide expected a little later this afternoon. The winds are really picking up here. The intensity of the wind has definitely picked up. There was one wind gust recorded of 93 kilometres an hour, so you can really start to feel that blustery come through. It's causing some damage. We've had some tree branches that have fallen down. I forgot my cameraman to turn around. You can just sort of see how the palm fronds in and around the area, they're all starting to fall down as well. It's a sugar glider actually fell out of the tree a little while ago and then scampered back up the tree where it was. So hopefully that sugar glider is not doing too badly. We have seen some more significant damage as well in the area. There was a large tree that fell down on one of the main roads into Port Douglas. That saw police officers there having to ensure that no locals or other residents were unnecessarily coming into town. The advice is if you don't have to be on the roads, you don't have to be out, then you shouldn't be mainly. People have been bunkering down. People have been preparing for this for the last 24, 48 hours. But that's the situation that we're seeing at the moment, Sharyn.
You say, Sally, that people are prepared for it, but as you mentioned, the tourists have no idea what they're in for. If you've never been through a cyclone before, you don't actually know what to expect. They must be quite worried.
Absolutely, but there is that sort of ignorance is bliss energy as well with it all, Sharyn. You know, a couple of international tourists rolled into town yesterday saying, so excited to be here. We're going to go to Mossman Gorge. We're going to see all the beautiful sights of far north Queensland. And the tourist park operator, Helen Oates from the Pendennis Tourist Park, was telling me she had to turn them away. She says, I'm sorry, no, you're going to have to go further south. They were completely unaware of what was coming. And this weather system that was confronting them as they came. There are other holiday makers as well here who are up from some of our southern states. There's also a large contingent here in Port Douglas of part-time residents, people who live here some of the year, enjoy the beautiful weather and then go back home. There's holiday makers of holiday homes up here, Victorians, Tasmanians, who for the first time ever are experiencing cyclone conditions like this. It's a mixed bag of people frightened and concerned. They're sandbagging and pretty concerned about what they're going to see. They just don't know what to expect. There's others who are thrilled to be, it's almost storm chasers in a way, enjoying this incredible force of nature that they're seeing and witnessing.
One of the reasons, of course, people go to Port Douglas is to see the reef. What impact has it had on those tourism operators like the Quicksilver operation, which is a massive operation up there? They do those tours out to Agincourt Reef and other places. I understand everything's been cancelled at the moment.
Absolutely, Sharyn. The marina, which is normally packed with boats, both run by locals, their own boats, as well as tourist boat operators, the marina has been completely deserted. Everybody has moved their boats into the mangroves and into sheltered waters to ensure that those boats don't become damaged. Holiday plans have had to be cancelled, interrupted, adjusted, moved back a bit further, but once a cyclone comes through, the tourism operators want everyone to come back because there's no better time after a cyclone to enjoy far north Queensland. So businesses are sort of bracing for impact. They know it's coming, but then once it goes, they're hoping that all the tourists will be coming back to enjoy beautiful far north Queensland.
I think I heard one operator say that by Friday they'll be back up and running again, so very optimistic in North Queensland.
Are they always?
They certainly are. All right, Sally, we'll let you get back to that and we'll cross back to you a little later in the bulletin to find out what's happening up there. Thank you for the update. Well, let's head a little further north now and bring in our coastal expert, Paul Burt. And Bertie, you're at Newell Beach. That area is certainly seeing the effects of Cyclone Jasper right now.
Absolutely there, Sharyn. It's windy, there's palm fronds, everything's sort of all happening throughout this region. And people are just out clearing up debris and trying to clear their backyards. This is a place we're staying in at the moment, and this is our backyard. Absolutely beautiful spot here, but nonetheless, the water is just coming up. I'm going to do a bit of a walk and talk with you as we go, but the water coming up on those storm surges is quite amazing. This is all up to around just under knee-deep water about an hour ago when we had that surge come through. But still at the moment, there's wild waves pushing down. Come out here this way here, Benny, and you'll have a look at it. And you'll see up here, Sharyn, at the moment, right up along this whole foreshore, this water is literally lapping right up behind these houses at this point in time. Now, fortunately, with Tropical Cyclone Jasper still hovering, as you mentioned, about 135 k's offshore, not due to make landfall till later this afternoon. What we are going to see there is obviously a lot more of this, a lot more wind, a lot more destruction, and a lot more horizontal rain. The rain really hasn't started to what we normally see during these systems. We are forecasting between 250 and 300 millimetres over a few hour period later this afternoon into tonight. And then of course what we'll also see is over the next couple of days could be seeing totals of up to 600 millimetres around Cooktown and around 500 millimetres across this far northern region of where I am, Newell Beach, Wonga Beach, Coya Beach, and down towards of course Port Douglas and down into Ellis Beach into Cairns. Now, what we're looking back up here is a lot of these waves pushing in. The tide is now dropping. Low tide's about 3 o'clock this afternoon there, Sharyn, and once this system comes across the coast, it's really going to make a massive difference to the inland area. It's going to collapse out. It'll come down to a tropical low. Now, the engine is still spinning out here. It's still gaining momentum to Category 1. Forecast to move into a Category 2 system at 3 p.m. this afternoon, and of course the crossing taking place around 6 to 7 p.m. tonight, very close to where we are here. If we're lucky enough, we might even see the stars as the eye goes through. But it's 28-degree water temperature at the moment. Now that is what's turning the engine of this system, and as soon as that system comes across the land, it's going to stop because there's no more engine to be turned. There's no more gathering of that moisture, that hot coral sea water. It's going to hit, it's going to drop, and therefore we see a lot more rain. And that's what Tony Auden say. We're going to see those hundreds and hundreds of millimetres coming throughout the evening as that system passes over. It'll then move through places such as Laura, Kawanyama, Pomparau, before heading into the Gulf of Carpentaria, where it should just dissipate. But at this point in time, a lot of locals here, they've sandbagged their garages, their doors, all of these beautiful homes, again, right on this foreshore. You've got fingers crossed, and thankfully a lot of this system is still staying out at sea at the moment. It did not make landfall as previously thought right on that morning king tide. So I guess at this point in time, it's a wait, watch, and just make sure that you've got everything all done. It's too late now, shops are closed, you can't really go anywhere. It's just a matter of sitting back, bunkering down and watching Mother Nature take its thing. Yeah,
you've really got a feel for residents like the ones in that house where you're staying at the moment, Bertie. I've got to ask you, you're our coastal expert. The Great Barrier Reef, it's a World Heritage listed area. It's just offshore there. What's the damage likely to that particular area, given the force of the cyclone and the fact that it's sitting there off our coast?
It's a really good question there, Sharyn. You know, when Yahtzee came through, I had the privilege of being out on the reef a few hours after the system passed because it completely dropped out. It was a Category 5 system, but we went out to some atolls out there where we'd been before and sat up on a sand dune 3 metres above the water, and it was absolutely beautiful. We went out there again after Yahtzee had gone, and it was 2 metres underwater. It completely sandblasted that atoll away. It completely moved these large bommies that were huge, the size of mini minor cars, and rolled them across the reef for hundreds and hundreds of metres, because our Yahtzee Category 5 had winds in excess, as we all remember, 300 kilometres per hour. This one, winds 90 kilometres per hour up to around maybe 140. At the moment, there's sustainable gusts up to 120 in the guts of this. So what we're going to see later this afternoon, as it turns into a Category 2 system, winds could reach up to 165 kilometres per hour. The reef, it's been there for a long time. I don't think it's going to do too much. The Quicksilver people who run out of course, Port Douglas, I was having a chat with those guys yesterday. They've packed down their barge out there, the big pontoon, 100 metres long, 100 feet long, sorry, that they take out the hundreds of people to every day. Now, they've packed that down. They're going out there on Saturday. Now, they're saying they're going to be open for business. They're doing snorkeling tours out there on Friday, so make sure you book in with them, because on Saturday, they're definitely heading back out there. The boats are up in the Dixon Inlet, the back reaches of Port Douglas at the moment. I was up there a couple of days ago. They were putting all the lines into the mangroves. They are sitting high and dry on mud at low tide. These monster boats, I've never seen it done before. So they're taking their tourists, their clients back out to the reef in a couple of days' time, because once this thing passes, light to variable winds will soon take place. I'd say probably by Friday lunchtime, Sharyn.
Yes, post-cyclone, it will still be a very, very beautiful part of the world. All right, thank you very much for that, Bertie. Well, let's head to Cairns City now, where our reporter Joel Dry is this morning. And Joel, Cyclone Jasper, it is testing the power network right now. I believe we're starting to see some power outages.
Sharyn, we are indeed. Thanks to the winds that are starting to pick up, we are seeing the first lot of power inconveniencing for thousands of people in the region. Over 8,000 properties now without power. That is due to damage. They don't exactly know where, but they know they need to go out and find it. So not just the Cairns CBD area, also Gordonvale, places like Innisfail. A widespread issue for the power network, but at the moment the conditions probably are not conducive to get out there and repair. Thankfully, overnight, we did not see the planned blackouts that Mick de Brenni, the Energy Minister, had warned us about yesterday, and that is because of the later arrival of Jasper. So the power stayed on all night, but as the cyclone gets closer, as the winds pick up, we are likely to see more trees down, more power lines down, and that could mean that a wider area could experience blackouts. Again, you are going to have to be patient. This is why authorities told people to prepare. Make sure you had things like batteries, water, supplies, because it was very likely that people were going to be without power. We are now seeing that situation start to unfold. The conditions, as everyone has started to talk about, they are deteriorating. The wind is coming in bands, it picks up, it then goes to a lull. Same with the rain. The sheets of rain are starting to come in. We know we are expecting somewhere upwards of half a metre of rain for some areas. So Jasper has been fashionably late, but it does feel like he is starting to make his arrival felt along a wide stretch of coastline from down to Innisfail right up to Cooktown, and it is only going to get worse as the day unfolds.
Joel, one of the big concerns obviously in that Cairns area, there's so many low-lying properties in the CBD as well as along those northern beaches. The storm surge, is that still considered a big threat for the area?
Yeah, the storm surge has really been the headline in the early part of this weather event. We've heard about how, because of Jasper's late arrival, it did not coincide as much as it was going to with this morning's high tide at 9:30. So for areas like where we are today, Machin's Beach, that is good news, because a number of these properties were in the red zone. They were told to evacuate, but I can tell you the vast majority did not take that advice on board. They felt comfortable, they felt prepared, and most of the people on this street have stayed to face Jasper head on. And they have ridden out the storm, at least the early part, because of this rock wall that was installed in about the early 2000s. It has protected them largely. And so the waves, yes, you get the odd one that has been crashing over here, maybe making it as far as the road, but certainly no inundation. And that again is because the high tide did not coincide with the arrival of Jasper. There is another high tide later on this afternoon, but it is lower than this morning's high tide. So these people here, and I've spoken to a number of them, they feel they are in the clear, at least from a storm surge perspective. Obviously the high winds and the rain is a whole nother story. For the most part in these northern beaches area, it has been a curiosity that a lot of people have not been able to resist. This footpath here has had a steady stream of traffic, people coming, taking photos, experiencing that the spray in their face, the odd big wave crashing over them, but they don't feel like they are under too much threat at the moment. That is sort of not exactly what authorities want people to be doing. The messaging continues to be, it has been, stay indoors for the most part of today. We are still yet to experience the full force of Jasper. It is coming, and so now is not the time to be out and about. Be indoors, don't be out in your car. Wait until you get the official word from authorities that the storm has passed over, its impacts have reduced, then you can go out. But that is not likely to be until well into this evening, probably most likely tomorrow morning. So for now, sit tight, enjoy the ride, but enjoy it from the comfort and safety of your own home.
Yes, North Queenslanders, they are always prepared for cyclones. They do take it in their stride. So thank you very much for that, Joel. Well, authorities have been so concerned about the impact of this cyclone, a preemptive disaster declaration was declared from Cape Melville to Townsville. Emergency management teams have been meeting around the clock, and here is the latest from authorities.
Tropical Cyclone Jasper will hit the far north Queensland coast early this afternoon and into this evening. It's expected to make landfall early this afternoon and into this evening. While currently it remains a Category 1, it is still expected to intensify to a Category 2 system and is expected to hit the coast between Hopevale and Cairns. Conditions will grow more intense throughout the day in that part of far north Queensland. Between 3 p.m. yesterday and 6 a.m. today, SES have responded to more than 80 calls for assistance. 93 people are currently in evacuation centres. Anglicare, the Salvos and Vinnies are engaging with vulnerable people in those affected areas to make sure they know they can access temporary accommodation and that they know where evacuation centres are.
So we've already started to see impacts on the coast, as mentioned. We've seen gales on some offshore locations, and Cairns has started recording gusts of up to 82 kilometres per hour and sustained winds of up to 50 kilometres per hour. So we are starting to see the impacts of this cyclone, and that will get worse as we move through today and as that crossing becomes closer.
Now is the time to stay indoors. Your safest place is your home. However, if you're in a low-lying area or you do not feel safe in your home, now is the opportunity to move to an evacuation centre. As we heard the Bureau say, winds will increase and rain will increase throughout the day. So if you're feeling unsafe, please do that movement early so that you're not putting yourself or emergency services responders at risk.
And that was the latest there from Emergency Management Headquarters. Well, our meteorologist Tony Auden is also with us, casting his expert eye over the system, and he joins us now. Now, Tony, Jasper, it's not exactly punctual, is it? There was talk it was due to arrive about now, but now they're saying, what, between, say, 6 o'clock, late afternoon, early evening, it should cross the coast?
Yes, that's right, Sharyn. So we've seen those slight changes in the forecast track. We've been confident on the track for a week now, but it's these small changes within 24 hours that can really affect how Jasper impacts on the coast. Of course, we're seeing that later forecast arrival, but also a bigger change overnight that is really sparing us the worst. Jasper was downgraded to Category 1. The cloud fell apart last night and it's taken a while to gather steam again. So here is the forecast track from here on in, moving west towards the coast, likely to make landfall this evening, 6 or 7 p.m. It's likely to be a mush of cloud and rain at the time and moving through slowly. So that won't be one defined moment. Unless it was to get to a severe Category 3 system, we won't have a defined eye. It will be a mush of cloud. Having said that, we will see those severe impacts through the course of the next few hours. Warnings still current for this red area right across the region. Severe weather warnings further inland as well. Now, let's get in and have a look at those impacts. We've already seen wind gusts up to 100 kilometres an hour on the offshore weather stations. We could still see that peak around 140 k's an hour if it does get up to Category 2 near that coastal crossing location. That shouldn't be a big concern for northern Queensland. Any houses built since 1985, well, the building code means that they should stay intact. Minor damage is an issue and it would be dangerous outside. So the main threat there is more so to be damage to trees and crops. But of course, will be dangerous outside. In terms of the rainfall, it was quiet this morning. Then we've all gathered steam on the radar. We're seeing this swirling mass of cloud and rain really spinning around that system at the moment. Those gusty squalls moving onto the coast about 2 to 3 hours ago. And as we can see here, plenty of rain right across the North Tropical coast. That is forecast to continue through the course of the afternoon, evening, overnight and into tomorrow morning, then likely ease as Jasper moves further inland through the course of tomorrow. In that time, well, we could see those very heavy falls. Pick a number, we're sticking with those 24-hour totals up to 500 millimetres on the official warnings. Some spots could pick up more over the course of a few days, and then those real flash flooding issues over a shorter period of time. We could see 250 or 300 millimetres in short periods of time. So we have the risk of flash flooding and also riverine flooding. Flood watches are current for all of these areas here, and we're just starting to see some response in some of those catchments with some green minor flooding in some of those areas. Now, we've been talking about storm surge. Thankfully, we have dodged a bullet with this morning's high tide. Jasper offshore, we didn't see much of an issue there. All of those tide gauges staying below HAT, which is the highest astronomical tide of the year. Still a fair bit of water around, but thankfully that has missed that morning high tide at 9:27 a.m. We're expecting landfall at a lower tide later in the day, but we do need to watch for tomorrow morning. There is another high tide that is also a high level at 10:10 a.m. in Cairns. We should see onshore northeast winds off the back end of this system, so we could see a more widespread but gentler storm surge right across the region. So Sharyn, still a lot of moving pieces, but we do need to keep an eye on things over the course of the next few hours.
Tony, what's slowing the tracking of it down? I mean, as I said, it was supposed to cross the coast around this time now. What is actually slowing it down?
Well, it's all to do with steering influences in the upper atmosphere. So what we've seen in the past days, it's moved further north a little bit. That's moved that forecast track further north past Port Macquarie and further north, Port Douglas rather, and what we're seeing now is those upper patterns are starting to shift around. It's moving west. I suspect we might get a little bit of southwest bringing it into those areas, which will just bring Cairns and Port Douglas into the edge of that potentially destructive wind zone later today.
And what about with this flooding? A lot of low-lying areas in Cairns, Port Douglas, you know, all along those northern beaches area. What do you expect will happen there in terms of the flooding? Will those properties, are they likely to be inundated in that red zone? Or?
Well, in terms of the actual flooding, it's a regular occurrence on the North Tropical coast. I don't think that will be a big issue. The catchments will go up and down within a couple of days. Because we're missing this chance of getting up to Category 3, it's very, very unlikely now. I think we'll see just a broad area of low-level inundation right on the coast. We're very unlikely to see any significant flooding into the CBD of Cairns unless it's those very low-lying areas. So we're, like I said, we've dodged a bullet this morning. We do need to watch for tomorrow morning, but that real threat of a larger storm surge will drop, especially as soon as Jasper crosses the coast.
And what about road closures? That's always a thing at this time of year in North Queensland. Are you expecting like the Bruce Highway might be cut, things like that?
There's every chance we'll see those major road closures. Again, that would be more so as a result of rainfall as opposed to storm surge. As we see many flooding events on the North Tropical coast, it's the wettest part of Australia. Those catchments do tend to empty out in the course of 1 to 2 days. I think people, for the most part, do know to stay off the roads, and it won't take too long to get back to normal as Jasper moves inland. Yes,
well, they were talking Friday. They were all going to go back to normal by Friday, so fingers crossed that's the case. All right, thank you very much, Tony. Stay with us here on 7. We return to the far north soon for more on Cyclone Jasper as it makes its way towards the coast.
The hottest flavours right now have a very Aussie twist.
Why aren't more people cooking with these ingredients?
And one pot, massive flavour.
All baked in one tray.
The easiest midweek dinner.
Super tasty.
Better Homes, Friday on 7/2 and 7+.
Brilliant tones in red dot light. Every nice and easy shade has perfect highlights. Just 3 steps, mix, dye, dry. With Claro, I'm ready to colorify. Is the hair color I want to be? Claro, it's so me.
Headaches can impact performance. Unleash the speed of liquid with Nurofen Advanced Liquid Capsules for fast headache relief when it matters most. You do the top score, we'll do the headache relief fast.
Looking to save on your household bills? Then stack your energy, internet and mobile with AGL Stack and Save to unlock amazing credits and discounts. See how much AGL Stack and Save could save you.
Ooh, the fancy biscuits. Did we win Gold Lotto or something?
You too could win a share in Gold Lotto's $30 million mega draw. Get your ticket Saturday, December 30. Wouldn't it be nice?
I know I can count on you. You got love. 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 You got love.
Pandora loves Unboxed. Receive a free bracelet when you spend $149 or more at Pandora. Conditions apply.
Curious to know the value of your home? Real Estimate from realestate.com.au is a free online tool that tracks the market value of your home or any home in Australia. Get a real estimate today from realestate.com.au.
Are you constipated and struggling to poo? Caruso's Constipation Ease to the rescue. Caruso's Constipation Ease helps relieve constipation by making it easier for you to poo. So if you're struggling to poo and would like to poo more, try Caruso's Constipation Ease.
Don't let hay fever allergies hold you back. Nothing beats Telfast for fast, non-drowsy 24-hour action. Telfast, we know hay fever allergies.
Well, welcome back to our special coverage of Cyclone Jasper here on 7 News. We have some developing details now on power outages in the North Queensland region. 8,300 homes and businesses, we understand, are without power. Now, that includes 4,500 in the Gordonvale district, 400 in Innisfail, there's 1,100 in and around the southern tablelands, and 2,300 around Cairns itself. So some power outages already as a result of Cyclone Jasper. Well, let's go back to coastal expert Paul Burt now, who's on the move at Newell Beach. The seas there have certainly been whipped up this morning, Bertie. Bertie, the residents close to the ocean, they must be looking on with a fear of dread right now as you drive around that area.
I can tell you now, Sharyn, absolutely. You know, we've just had a little bit of a reprieve there, just lots of palm fronds down, but a bit of a reprieve from the wind. It's coming and going. This is what cyclones do. You know, you get this ramped up gust of wind, and then every hour progressively, as we start to see the system get closer to the land, those winds get stronger and stronger, and the rain drives harder and more of it and more frequently until it sounds like a freight train as it passes over, which is what we're forecasting for this afternoon, the later parts. But yeah, the coastal community here and the people right on the water, sure, they have a beautiful outlook and all that, but it would be worrying times right about now. For the simple fact is, it's the uncertainty. It's not knowing what's to come around the corner. You know, Tony Alden was just saying Category 1, we've been talking about the Cat 2, it could turn into that, but at this stage here, if it stays at a Category 1, it's still sustained winds for the next several hours through till maybe later parts of tonight of getting upwards. I mean, that's right on their doorstep right now, is that, you know, 90 kilometres per hour up to 120, maybe even 130 kilometres per hour. So there's a lot of wind and a lot of power, a lot of strength involved in that, of course, but even the palm trees have been knocked over down on the foreshore here. There's been other trees all down, there's palm fronds all down, and this is just the start of this. This morning, nice and early, we didn't have much of a breeze. It was very calm, and as we've seen for the past few days, that it's been a glass-out up here, something that the people of Cairns and far north Queensland haven't had a lot of this year. It's been relentless southeast trade winds. They really haven't had a fair time, particularly for a lot of the charter boat operators wanting to take out customers. It's been a very slow time, but even there's a lot of debris. There's a few people just driving around and looking, but there's so much foliage up here as well, you know, mate, that you know, a lot of these guys are just sitting back and just waiting to see what it brings. And yes, they are used to this. Yes, they do get rain come through, and they'll probably sit out the front here and have a cup of tea and talk about it. But that's what they do up here. They love to go out. They love to see what's happening. This is their backyard, and they're all waving there. Yeah, g'day, how you going? You know, a bit of a gibber, and there you go. They're out the front having a cup of tea in a beer bottle. But nonetheless, it is what it is. Sharon.
A cup of tea in a beer bottle?
Day up here in the paradise, they would say.
What is that, Bertie?
Having a bunch of booze time of the day. But I'm not sure. I think it's called a shandy, Sharon.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's one of those things here. A lot of people are just sitting back and waiting for Mother Nature to deliver what she's going to deliver. You can't stop it. They're all prepared. All the local shops have shut down. And of course, you know, it's just a matter of riding it out. And if you're in a house that was a lot older and had a lot of tin roof on it, it stood the test of time. It's going to be there tomorrow as well. But I'm sure there's a lot of other things that you know, they're going to be worried about. And of course, what they do say up here that they're really enjoying about this is that they're getting a good drink, and that is all of the catchment areas are going to fill up the dams, the water tanks are going to get filled up, and of course, you know, we're just going to wait and see what tomorrow delivers after tonight's crossing of Tropical Cyclone Jasper.
Well, hopefully they won't get too much of a drink, though. They don't need any flooding up there at the moment. And you go try that, what was it, a cup of tea in a beer bottle, and let me know what it tastes like. Thank you, Bertie. Now, further south along the Cassowary coast, heavy and persistent rain is triggering a risk of flash flooding. Christina Pooljak is in Innisfail this morning. And Christina, locals there are very used to heavy rainfall, but this system, it could bring up to half a metre of rain in 24 hours. How severe is the flood threat where you are?
Yeah, absolutely, Sharon. And look, you're right, locals are very used to it. Here, Innisfail has tackled against Yassi and Larry in the past, but those down here are completely used to that sort of prepping. Right now, they're getting ready for far more flooding and heavy storm surge as the coastal waters rise high above those sea levels. Flying Fish Point and Coconuts are the two suburbs that are probably going to be most at risk throughout the rest of the day and tomorrow. All day yesterday, it was eerily hot and quiet, but the rain picked up last night and now it's coming in waves. The current advice for people here is to watch and act and ultimately please stay indoors. Even though the storm isn't exactly here right now, the winds will be very strong to battle, and we're told to be aware of road closures surrounding Innisfail. Just earlier today, we were stuck trying to get through Flying Fish Point as there were electrical wires all over the ground. The warning for people travelling also goes, but as well as people that are trying to seek help, that help may take longer to reach. If you are impacted by flooding, that SES may be impacted too. Innisfail is traditionally banana growing territory, so farmers up here are getting everything they can off the trees and protecting it from those possible flooding conditions. Shops in town here are closed and it's an absolute ghost town here in Townsville, so they're batting down the hatches and ready for the storm surge. Now, just like the rest of the far north, Sharon, we're waiting for the worst.
Christina, you mentioned they're the banana growers. Obviously in Yassi that was a big loss to them. They lost a lot of their crop. Banana prices went through the roof. What are the local farmers saying to you about their fears of what's going to happen? Of course, you've got the sugar industry as well in Innisfail and Babinda and around those parts. Are they worried about damage? I know the winds won't be as strong as in Yassi, but are they still worried about what might eventuate?
Is the worst case scenario for these farmers. You know, it's their livelihoods for a lot of them. So they're ripping everything off. The cane, the sugar, is a little bit more sturdy, but obviously flooding can ruin everything, and so they're doing everything they can, prepping as much as they can, just ready for a possible storm surge.
All right, Christina, thank you very much for the update. Hopefully there won't be too much damage to crops. We do love our bananas. We don't want them at $15 a kilo again. All right, thank you for that. Well, Port Douglas residents are bracing for Jasper's impact, but not everyone has bunkered down. Some chose to brave the wild conditions this morning. Here's some of what they had to say.
I'm just interested in having a look before it gets too dangerous.
How are you finding the conditions?
Pretty windy. Yeah, we just come down for a quick look before it gets too rough, and yeah, we'll head back now.
Yeah, very good. Are you visiting holiday?
We sort of live here some of the time. We're from Tasmania, so
Right.
yeah.
You don't get this sort of weather down in Tassie?
We get wind, but not like this. No.
It's not too bad at the moment, but I think it's going to get a little bit worse a little bit later on. So,
Yeah. What's the plan?
bunker down at the house, beer in the fridge, so we'll be pretty right. Plenty of food.
Have you been through a cyclone before?
No, first one.
Yeah. What are you thinking is going to happen?
Lots of water, lots of wind. Everyone seems pretty prepared when you go around town, so which is good. There's a lot of complacency generally because there's a lot of near misses that don't actually come to us. So yeah, this time I think everyone should be prepared.
Just having a last minute look out before we have to bunker down for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, just better go home and keep safe like everyone else.
Yeah, what are you expecting this to look like, do you think?
Like a cyclone, I suppose, yeah. So it's going to be, yeah, we've got to be sensible and get indoors and be safe. The streets are very quiet, everyone seems to have done the right thing. And yeah, we'll just all go home and hope for the best, and you keep safe too.
Thank you.
The reaction there from some locals to what's ahead for them. Well, extra reinforcements have arrived in the cyclone zone. 70 SES volunteers from the state's south are now on the ground, as well as 25 personnel from the Disaster Assistance Response Team. Now, that's on top of 12 swiftwater rescue teams that landed earlier this week. 450 Ergon Energy crews are also standing by in the north, ready to respond to power outages. Up next, we return to the far north as locals there brace for the full effects of Cyclone Jasper as it continues tracking towards the Queensland coast. Stay with us.
Another birthday, too many to count. At my age, Mom had already had me, but I'm so far from starting a family. No plan.
Just need to figure out a way to stop loving it.
What's wrong with that? 'Cause all my friends are growing up, they're moving on while I'm still looking back. I guess that's growing. And I'm afraid to change. I guess that's growing pain.
It's the AusPost app. You can track deliveries and get updates when they're on the way. All listed here.
It's not doing anything for me.
I think it's your gloves.
Australia Post, delivering Christmas for Australia.
And yes, we're on. The tent is in play. We know where it'll go. Throw is good, and that is a tent.
Being an outdoor legend feels pretty good. At BCF and feeling is BCF and fun. Hey!
Vanish Gold Multi-Power works in cold and short cycles with amazing stain removal power that's more effective than detergent alone. Love your clothes for longer with Vanish.
Simon is here, 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 Simon.
TK Maxx. Big brands, small prices. Apps at TK Lootly.
Explore the new Atlantis, now open at SeaWorld. Discover 3 new rides: Leviathan, Trident, and Vortex. Only at SeaWorld.
Kia. Movement that inspires.
I know I can count on you. You got love. You got love. You got love. You got love. You got love.
Pandora loves unboxed. Receive a free bracelet when you spend $149 or more at Pandora. Conditions apply.
Are you ready? We did it! Our first home! And now we have room for...
I can't hear it.
Now we have room for the baby. We're having a baby. B-A-B-Y, baby. B-A-B.
Well, welcome back to our special coverage of Tropical Cyclone Jasper. Steve Hart is at Queensland's Emergency Service headquarters in Kedron this morning. And Steve, disaster management meetings have been taking place. What's the latest?
Yes, good morning to you, Sharyn. I've got Assistant Commissioner Ben Marcus with me now, who's in control of emergency management. There have been some meetings today. What's been the discussion points?
So what we're doing today, we've met with the local councils in the impacted areas, including on the Gulf side, who may well receive this storm later on in the week. And we've just made sure that all of the latest information we have from the Bureau of Meteorology and our hydrology records and our wind predictions are given out to all the councils to make sure that they are comfortable, make sure that the key messages that we need out to the community have been shared, and then to also make sure that people understand that the evacuation centres are running and where they are and how to get to them.
Ben, I know some of the key discussion points have been around letting people know, especially in those North Queensland areas, far North Queensland, Category 2. While some people might think that is less severe, obviously, than 3, 4 and 5, there are still some major issues. What are they?
Yeah, so we categorise cyclones based on wind speed primarily, but and we've been very blessed, excuse me, to have not had a cyclone cross the coast in Queensland for a number of years. The big issue here will be the rain. We're expecting between 200 and 300 millimetres of rain in the first 6 hours and up to half a metre, so 500 millimetres of rain in 24 hours. This will cause localised flash flooding. Flash flooding is dangerous. People, for some reason, tend to want to walk or drive through flash flooding. Our very clear message is do not do that. You don't know what's in the water or under the water. It is, in many cases, it's as dangerous or more dangerous than the wind that we receive. Flash flooding by its very nature rises quickly, but it falls quickly, so you can literally wait it out. Our very clear message to people is to shelter in place, allow the storm to go over, and then listen to what the emergency services need.
And I know another key point for your team has been all about people who have just moved to the area. There's a lot of new people in that far North Queensland area and even locals who haven't experienced a serious cyclone for a long time. What's your message to them?
Yeah, so now is not the time to be cavalier. Cyclones are dangerous. They're also unpredictable. While it's currently Category 1, we expect to cross the coast as a Category 2. That does mean wind gusts of around 140 kilometres an hour. That does mean that trees will fall. It also means that debris will flow. So what we're saying to people is listen to your local councils, listen to the messages from the emergency services. If you feel safe where you are and you are safe, please remain there until the storm passes. If you don't feel safe, please get through to one of our evacuation centres in Edmonton or Cooktown.
And we're hearing from our team throughout this news service that it's predicted to hit around 6 tonight. Is that still the latest?
Yeah, that is still the latest, which is quite good for us in terms of that's towards the low tide. So the storm surge for us won't be as big an issue as had it have crossed on the high tide. But 6 p.m. tonight also leads into darkness. And again, we would urge people to remain indoors until the storm has passed and it is safe to come out. Please stay connected with your local council's disaster management messaging.
And we're hearing people also, a lot of people are looking forward to this. They've never, lived through a cyclone before. Obviously, there are some serious dangers, but it can be an exciting event too. I mean, what's your warning to people, though, who may want to sort of get outside when this is going on?
You don't. Focus on the danger element. So the other issue that we face is you may feel safe, but others won't feel safe seeing you outdoors. They will call emergency services, and that will put emergency services staff in harm's way unnecessarily. And if you do come unstuck and you do need to be rescued, we have to take people from a place of safety to a place where it isn't safe to effect that rescue. Please stay inside, wait it out. Cyclones, by their very nature, don't last very long. Let it pass. Take some photos of the damage the next day if you have to. Please make it good for all of us in the system and remain safe where you are.
And here at the Disaster Management Centre, all your teams here are working hard, they're prepared, they know what they've got to do. What are they doing there?
So the State Disaster Coordination Centre in Kedron in Brisbane, we directly support local government who leads the disaster management response. We have our public information capability here, our aviation capability, the Bureau of Meteorology, our planning, logistics, our operations cell. We operate 24/7 during the disaster. So the way these work, we prepare for the disaster, we then respond, then we immediately move into relief and then recovery. So we'll be operating here for quite a few days yet.
Thanks for your time, and Sister Commissioner, it certainly sounds, Sharyn, like we're in really good hands here. Everything is under control, but it's just a wait and see. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Steve.
They do a terrific job. All right, thank you, Steve, with the latest there from Emergency Management Headquarters at Kedron. Well, let's head back to Cairns now, where we find Joel Dry. And Joel, I understand you're with some residents who are bunkering down. How are they preparing?
Sharyn, we're in Machin's Beach, and I'll give you a bit of a view of what it's like on the front line of Cyclone Jasper. These are waterfront properties, and they have been staring anxiously all morning at the storm surge that has been sweeping over those rocks. But thankfully, it is a good news story so far. While it did come over the rocks a little bit, it has not penetrated any properties, so at least for this morning's high tide, things are looking good, which is great news for Vicky, the homeowner. First of all, thank you for letting me in and keeping me out of the rain for a while. How are you feeling about the situation?
I'm fine with it. Just we've got our gen set, and yeah, I think we're prepared. So.
Was there a little bit of nervousness this morning about what the high tide was going to do when it was looking like the cyclone was coming?
No, because I know that rock wall's engineered properly.
Talk us through that rock wall, just maybe as Pete Cameraman focuses on it. It's relatively new, is that right?
Yeah, they started, I think, 2013. They were here 2014, and I think it was completed 2015 or 16.
And it's precisely there for a weather event like this, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah, definitely, because the old rock wall used to come up and lift the rocks up onto the road, and then the road would get flooded and there'll be rocks all over the road.
What's the plan for the rest of the day? Obviously, you're relatively high and dry here, comfortable. You've got provisions inside, I'm told.
Yes, definitely. You have to. So, doing nothing. I've just finished doing some ironing while we've got power.
Ironing during a cyclone. That's a novel use of time.
Yes, definitely.
And husband, Trevor, maybe let's just open this door and say good day to Trevor, you reckon? Trevor?
Say hello, Dad.
How are you feeling about it? How are you feeling about it? You made a cheese board. You good to go?
Yeah, I heard. We're not starving.
You're not starving?
No, not yet.
And what time does the cyclone party officially begin?
We think about 7.
7?
What, tonight?
See, 7 from 7.
7 from 7.
7 from 7. There you go. So that's a bit of a snapshot, and thank you for having us into your home.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure, Josh.
That's a bit of a snapshot of the sentiment here. Machin's Beach, just north of Cairns. There was a slight amount of apprehension this morning about some of the perhaps lower-lying properties, but for the most part, people have stayed and they've confronted this head-on. This is a red zone. There was an evacuation order, but I think to a man, almost everyone has stayed because they wanted to see, to make sure they were here. If the water did start to encroach, they could, redouble their sandbagging efforts and things like that. Nothing worse than not being here and find the water has got in and you could have done something about it. So this morning's high tide was at 9:30. There is another one later this afternoon as Jasper encroaches, but it is not as high as this morning's high tide. So that's a little bit of good news for these properties, but of course they'll keep watching, waiting, seeing exactly what Jasper delivers, and they'll do it with a full belly by the sound of it.
Yes.
You to find the residents with a cheese board. Very typical of you, Joel Dry. Joel, can I just ask you a question about, residents were told to prepare for days of isolation, particularly with road closures. Are residents there worried about being cut off from Cairns City or, other parts of the area?
Yeah, that is a concern. It varies depending on what part of Cairns you're in. So here in Machin's Beach, there's a creek to the north, a creek to the south. So it was a real and remains a real threat that with a lot of rain and storm surge, those creeks could cover the road, so they would become, in effect, isolated. That is why everyone did what they were told to do. They prepared, they stocked up, batteries, food, water, all of the things that they needed for a period of isolation that hopefully won't eventuate, but it may do. And the situation is different, all different pockets of Cairns. Some people are in areas that are bordered by creeks. They needed to be aware of what the flow of that water can do, and particularly with near on half a metre of rain that may come for some parts, it is a very real possibility that there will be some isolation. So that is something they are not looking forward to, but have prepared for, and just have to wait to see exactly what happens with this weather system that, as they always are, cyclones are unpredictable, and that is looking like being exactly the case with this one.
All right, thank you very much for that, Joel. You go and enjoy that cheese and crackers right now. You've earned them today, I think. Thank you. For some residents in the region, this will be their first cyclone emergency, but others have seen plenty others like it over the years. One of those more experienced residents is thrill-seeker stuntwoman Tiffany Lynn, who's bunkered down on her houseboat in Port Douglas, where she'll weather out the storm. Here's some of what she had to say, speaking with reporter Sharyn Ghidella earlier today.
I figure when I retire, I'm coming here. So now I'm here and I'm living the dream. Yeah. I'm in the most beautiful part of the world, according to David Attenborough. And so
you're a real thrill seeker then?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So you don't mind a cyclone coming towards you?
No, I've been in 4 eyes with the cyclones now. When I had my house in Hawaii, we had Hurricane Iniki, and I lost my roof on and a lot of windows and everything. And it actually reticulated and came back on us, so we had the eye twice. Yeah. And then in Florida, I was in Hurricane David and Hurricane Andrew, and so I've been through a lot of. And here I had a house in Wonga Beach for a while, and we had Cyclone Rona and Cyclone Steve, and just took the branches off my mango trees. But
so Jasper doesn't scare you then?
No, it's a Category 1, and it's not very ferocious. So yeah, there's a bit of a culture of fear here because most people haven't been in a cyclone, so they get really scared about it. But I've been in a lot, and this is really quite mild.
Yeah, nice.
As hurricanes or cyclones go.
Yeah, and so what's your plan for today? Just sit where you are and enjoy the view?
Sit in my hot tub and watch the wind go by.
Well, let's go back to Tony Auden now. And Tony, where are the worst conditions at the moment with this cyclone?
Well, Sharyn, we're seeing an even spread of that wet and windy weather developing right across the North Tropical Coast. The best way to track it is, of course, on the radar. We've seen it all spinning around the system centre over the course of the last few hours. Waves of gusty squall lines moving in between about Innisfail and Port Douglas at the moment. We're just starting to see some minor flooding in parts of the Mulgrave River, that is just south of Cairns. Look, we dodged a bullet in terms of the morning storm surge, but we have seen a fair bit of water moving around, especially at Kawara Beach, just north of Cairns. Looking ahead, the main threat is now likely to be that rainfall continuing through the course of the night and into the morning. The one main uncertainty for now is just how long it will last on the coast. The model here has it easing and moving inland from late morning. Some of those other forecast models continue that heavy rain. Either way, we have that risk of major flooding and dangerous flash flooding through the course of the next day, and that will take a couple of days to clean up. So, Sharyn, we do need to keep an eye on the rainfall as well as the wind and water levels.
Let's hope that rain doesn't last too long. All right, Thank you, Tony. Well, let's head back to reporter Sharyn Ghidella now. Now, Sally is in Port Douglas, and it looks pretty wild where you are at times, Sally. The winds have picked up.
Right, Sharyn, good morning to you. Conditions really are deteriorating here in Port Douglas where we are this morning. The storm surge that's coming up into onto the beach, the Seeing 4 Mile Beach, what normally is a very popular tourist hotspot, completely engulfed by water. And check out this debris that's been brought up by it. There is driftwood, there is rocks, there's pebbles, there's all sorts of bits and pieces that's been pushed all the way up into the boardwalk. This boardwalk was completely clear this morning when we were walking along at only about 8, 9 o'clock this morning. So a lot of bits have been brought up onto the shore as a result of this storm surge that we're seeing. As Cyclone Jasper continues to approach, we spoke with Swiftwater rescue crews a little earlier today. They're ready and deployed. We've seen trees down. There's a lot of damage that's being brought around as well. There's lots of bits and pieces of tree branches falling. Overall, what we're seeing is residents just doing laps. The real brave ones are doing laps, popping their heads out of their homes, taking a look around and thinking, actually, this isn't for me, I'm going back inside. Emergency services are doing laps as well. The paramedics swung by before and gave us a thumbs up to make sure we were still doing okay. I'm thinking, Sharyn, I might want to take a leaf out of my colleague Joel Dry's handbook and go try and find a family with some cheese and crackers to try and get dry.
That sounds like a perfectly good idea under the circumstances. Good luck with that. All right, thank you, Sally. Well, the Douglas Shire north of Cairns is home to around 12,000 residents who are currently in the direct firing line of Cyclone Jasper's path. Now, for more, we're joined by Douglas Shire Mayor Michael Kerr. Michael, thanks very much for your time this morning. What's the situation looking like there at the moment? Are things improving or not so?
Well, this is the stage of the build-up. Of course, we've got the wind and the rain coming through now, and people are seeing debris starting to fly around. Now is the time that you should be buckled down inside your houses, not driving around or walking the streets. One of those palm fronds, if it comes flying at you, it'll absolutely do you damage. So not the time to be outside.
Michael, how worried are you about the amount of rainfall that's coming to North Queensland? They're talking up to, half a metre in 24 hours. How's that going to impact the Douglas Shire?
We're built for conditions like this. This is not an unusual thing to have large amounts of rainfall. At this point, there is absolutely no modelling for any flood inundation of houses. So people are quite safe. They should be remaining inside their houses. That is the safest place for them. We have great drainage here and the water will run off quite quickly.
It's such a beautiful part of the world, Port Douglas and the Douglas Shire. Are you worried about what impact all these pictures being shown around the world might have on your shire in terms of the tourism industry?
Well, I think as long as we get the follow-up as well to say, hey, we've recovered, because by Saturday, most of our businesses will be back up and running in full speed. So we really need our tourists to keep coming here. If you've got a holiday booked to come to Port Douglas next week, certainly don't cancel it, because we will be up and running and everything will be back to normal.
And Michael, is it a worry? You've got 2 World Heritage listed areas there. You've got the reef, you've got the wet tropics. Is it a worry for those particular areas what impact this cyclone could have on the reef and on the wet tropics?
Well, especially on the rainforest, because these winds do bring strong gusts that bring down large trees, which does cause damage in there. But, in nature, these things do happen. Even with our cyclones, we've had massive landslides in the Daintree where metres and metres of soil has come down a hill and taken out lots of rainforest. It's natural, it's nature, it rebuilds very quickly up here.
Yes, it does. And what about the sugar industry, Michael? Obviously, that's quite a thriving industry in your part of the world. Are cane farmers worried about damage to crops?
Absolutely they are. I mean, this has been heartbreaking for them. They've put in over $10 million between them just in seeding and fertiliser, etc. The last thing we want is a crop destroyed. So hopefully, most of the crops are still at a younger age, so they're not at full height. Hopefully they'll be able to withstand this and, we'll still have some good crops to take once they grow to full height in the future.
Well, Michael, Cyclone Jasper, it's still on its way. What would be your advice to everyone at the moment? Stay indoors, obviously.
Absolutely. The safest place for you right now is inside your home. Stay there, buckle up. If you are in any of the flood areas, make sure you know you are. Have a plan in place in case there is later stages, some sort of emergency to go to a friend's place, organise it now. But at this stage, as I said, there's no evacuations. There's no flood zone areas that are predominantly going to flood in any of the modelling whatsoever. Stay in your house, stay safe and enjoy the day off.
That must be quite a relief for you, given that only 24 hours ago we were talking about a massive storm surge and potential flooding and things like that.
Absolutely. But, the amount of rain that was coming has been reduced dramatically compared to what we thought we were going to get. There's still going to be a lot of rain, absolutely. There are certain areas that will have flooding areas, but it's not within the residential areas, so we're not that concerned in that respect.
Well, that's good. Well, we do wish you all the best up there as Cyclone Jasper continues its march towards the coast, and we'll no doubt get back to you a little later to find out what's happening in your area. Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you.
Well, now let's get the latest from our meteorologist, Tony Auden. And Tony, what's happening with the cyclone now? Where is it positioned?
Oh, well, Sharyn, a quick summary at the moment just to keep everything up to date. So, of course, Jasper is intensifying at the moment and moving closer towards the Queensland coast. Cyclone warnings and severe weather warnings current right across the region. At the moment, a Category 1 system, but there is a good sign that is likely to reach Category 2 just before landfall into the evening, then should clear inland and weaken through the course of the night. Of course, we do have those severe weather impacts, rain and wind starting to pick up on the coast at the moment. We're also seeing some of those signs that it could develop during the course of the next few hours. A couple of soil vortices here on the radar. That means more rain and wind are likely on the way. Of course, that risk of flooding, damaging wind gusts and perhaps a residual storm surge into the course of tomorrow morning as well. Sharyn, plenty happening, and of course that is the latest. We'll have to keep an eye on it.
All right, thank you very much for that, Tony. And that is where we leave our coverage of Cyclone Jasper and its impact on the state's far north. A team of reporters will continue to monitor the situation throughout the afternoon, bringing you the latest developments in our next bulletin at 4 p.m. We'll, of course, have comprehensive coverage in our major bulletin at 6 o'clock tonight when the cyclone is expected to cross the coast. We'll go live to the far north as it happens. We look forward to your company then, but for now, good afternoon.